So this first session is about change, okay? And I really want to impress upon you that as entrepreneurs, change is your business. Okay, you're in the business of change. And as social entrepreneurs, you believe that business is a way of achieving social change, environmental change. And because it's like the biggest thing that I've ever learned in my experience, and I'm encouraging you to take an interest in why things change, how things change, and most importantly, what it feels like to change, so that you can actually be aware of how it is for other people. Because through all of your business endeavors, even if you choose not to become an entrepreneur and you just work in organizations, they're made up of people. And people respond to change just like you did over the last half an hour. Okay, so if you think about some of the processes that we went through, I will go through those in a second. And really, I believe that knowing about change as an entrepreneur is like lime in a gin and tonic. Okay? It makes everything much smoother. My experience when I first started to become a social entrepreneur, I didn't really know much about change. And my way of leading things wasn't very smooth. It was like just the gin, or it was just the tonic. So I'm encouraging you to take an interest in change as entrepreneurs because it will help make things a lot smoother for you. So this is what we've done over this half an hour. Okay? Gave you this initial shock. Some of you denied that it was possible, stepped back with your body language, didn't want to get engaged, showed some expression of anxiety. You threw ideas away, you threw ideas in. There was a little bit of anger, not a lot. You're Cypriots, after all. There was a low point. Can anyone remember where they were when they really thought this is just a waste of time or it's not going to happen? Did anyone feel that? No one felt any kind of low point. That's really interesting, because normally you will, at some point, hit a bottom where you actually think, I don't think this is possible, and actually it's making me feel quite negative. But this group very quickly moved to this experimentation stage, and you tried nearly everything. Magnetizing the nails, building, wonderful stars and crosses and weaves. Some people even try and bend the nails. But through your experimentation and accepting that you could actually do it, you eventually got to the point where you could do it, and then straight away said, we can build this again. I can carry it on my head. I could do anything with it. It was impossible only half an hour ago. And half an hour later, you're carrying it on your head. So this is what happens in change, okay? And it will happen to you as an individual, and it will happen to the people around you. And you cannot escape it. You can just be conscious of it and learn to manage it, learn to help other people through it. And as a social entrepreneur, or as an entrepreneur, or as any sort of leader, you are going to experience this over and over again in your career, and you're going to, in effect, ask other people to go through change. And even at a macro level, at a strategic level, the vision that you're trying to pursue as an entrepreneur is going to ask the rest of society to go through this dip. And if you think about Cyprus as a context, where is it on this curve? Are we experimenting with unification? Are we really enjoying this crisis that we're having right now? Or are we at the bottom of that curve? It gives you an indication of the type of leadership that actually might move things forward. We need to experiment with entrepreneurship. We need to experiment with new ways of working, potentially to lift ourselves out. So this is the performance curve of an individual. And this is what will happen to your organization. As it goes through change, its own performance will drop. And you have to be aware of that. So being a social entrepreneur isn't all about success. A lot of it is about small failures and bigger failures, times when it's low. And you have to be conscious about whether you're performing at your best and whether your organization is performing at its best. But any organization going through change will drop in terms of its performance. So look at the governments across the world now, all battling with this big change. How many of them are performing well? None of them. They might say they're doing their best, but I'm showing you that it's not possible, because all the people in them are going through that curve and it drags the organization down. in the same way as if you lift everyone in the organization, it pushes the performance of the organization up. So this is the performance curve of the organization. An organization trying to get 10 nails on the head of one. My own approach to this is, in that first stage, you should use creativity and you should be there to energize people. In effect, you need to push them over the edge in the same way as I pushed you to do that task. If I'd have left 10 nails on the desk and another nail, one or two of you might have tried to do something with them. But I had to push you to all do it. The clues was me basically trying to enlighten you in some way. And sometimes even when people are helping you, it's not helpful. Because you don't know why they're telling you those things. But my own approach is that this is where you should be trying to learn your way through the change. And as an entrepreneur, that's a really key thing to remember. When you're at your low point, you can ask yourself the question, what can I learn from this? How can I teach someone else? One of the things that I love to do when I'm really at rock bottom is to help someone else. To remember that I'm not completely stupid. To actually be able to give back a little bit. And it does help pull me through. And this stage, when you're really experimenting and you're actually moving forward, it's a great feeling of empowerment. And you have that little euphoric whoop at the end of that exercise, which was that little pop of empowerment. We can do this. Did you believe you could do it half an hour ago? That's the point. So how do you actually, as an entrepreneur, think about this in this kind of strategic context? As an entrepreneur, it's your job to have a vision for what things will look like after the change has happened. And if you employ people, you'll have to have a vision for them and a vision for the organization. And as a social entrepreneur, you have to have a personal vision for how you're going to feel and be able to behave on the other side of the change that you're trying to see. So when you've got no money in the bank whatsoever and your cash flows run out, you still have to come up with your own vision for what it's going to feel like when you sort out this problem. Because what can happen is if you don't have that vision to pull you through, you'll not go through this curve and you'll just get off, you'll give up. So vision is very important for both you as an individual, the vision you give to other people, and the vision for your organization. And then because you've developed that at the beginning, you need to use that at the beginning. You have to be able to communicate to people what your vision is and use it as a business case. Because that's what you can use to push other people to go with you. Because as an entrepreneur, you're going to meet a lot of people who don't believe you, who don't agree with you. You're going to have this kind of body of evidence based on what you think is possible to pull them with you, to push them with you. An imperative for change. The crisis here was a massive imperative. How big an imperative do you want to start changing a banking system? For it to be completely on its knees. So as an entrepreneur, you don't want change in your organization to always be a crisis. You know, to only change, yes, we've run out of money again, let's change. So as a leader, as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to be able to come up with a vision for change to keep it going much more regular than that. Smaller changes. So in terms of actually, how do you do this? How do you actually manage change, people say, is you need to create a sense of urgency. Okay? If the building's on fire, I'm not going to give you anything other than a very large shout, as in fire. I won't even explain the building is on fire upstairs, just left of the elevator. I'll just shout fire. And in a way, when you want to create change in your communication as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to find your own fire, your own urgency. It's got to matter. If it doesn't matter to you, no one else is going to care. So as an entrepreneur, follow what you're passionate about. Follow what gives you fire. Get excited about being an entrepreneur. Don't see it as I have to do this because I can't get a job. See it as I want to do this because it gives me fire. I have a sense of urgency. I do not want to be unemployed anymore. Okay? The second thing, this is my Prime Minister and his wife, the Deputy Prime Minister. You have to create a coalition, however painful that might be. Some people are in the audience today who know that I've coined this venture that I want to build, I want to be part of, I want to help happen, but it is totally reliant on having a group of people around me who already think it's a good idea. They're convinced. They don't have to know everything about it. But when times get hard, that group of people have to be saying, so what are we going to do about it then? Why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? They can't be the sort of people that step back and say, maybe it wasn't such a good idea. So around you and your business, even though you as a social entrepreneur are so important, you have to have a group of people around you that have got your back and want to help you make it happen. That could be your parents, it could be your partner, it could be close friends. But beware, one of the things that I've learned is that some of the people you expect to be 100% behind you suddenly aren't. When you were at university and you were like them, they understood you. When you were in work and you were like them, they understood what you did on a 9-to-5 basis. Now you're up till 1 o'clock in the morning doing cash flow projections. They don't really get you anymore. And you're always talking about vision and changing the world and how do I do this and how do... They don't get you anymore. So be prepared that actually that coalition, you're going to have to build it maybe from scratch. And there will be people in your coalition that do give you 100% support. But how valuable is that? You know, if your dad's always saying, do what you want, son, I'll always support you, pat your back, but secretly he's talking to your mum saying, I think he's doing something really dangerous. How helpful is that? You'll need people that will criticize you, but in a very supportive way. Develop a vision and strategy, like this picture. You've got to be able to communicate. When everything else looks pretty blurred, when people talk to you, they see it clearly. You have to have a vision and a strategy for what you're doing. And by strategy, I mean you really have to think about it in the round. Not just, I need to do this, and then this, and then this, and then this. You need to think about it laterally. You need to think about how you're going to feel at different stages. When you're going to need that money. When you need to build a coalition. Who you need to get in place first. You need to do things in a strategic way, a thoughtful way. Two of the greatest presidents of the United States, both holding babies, completely different communicators. As an entrepreneur, you're going to have to become an excellent communicator. And the first person you have to convince is yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Don't confuse yourself. Don't confuse your coalition. Don't lie to them. And listen to other people. Listen to how you're being received. It's very frustrating being an entrepreneur sometimes because it's like no one wants to understand you. But that's just feedback. I'm communicating to you. If you're not hearing what I'm saying, I need to change. I need to think about how I can communicate with you. So communication is this key thing. Empower action. If people want to help you, help them help you. If you have a team around you, empower them to act. Say yes more than you say no. Let people proceed until apprehended. A great phrase. Let them take risks. Don't try and control them. Get this movement going forward. Like when you were doing the nails on the thing. All I wanted to do was just keep you moving forward. You said, are we moving in the right direction? Yes. Even though I knew you were going to fail several times more, that's still failing forwards. So as an entrepreneur, you must be empowering all the time. And a lot of entrepreneurs or business leaders, they become very defensive and very competitive and disempower people. But you can't be that way. When people are around you, they should feel empowered that this is about doing something. Yes, it's uncertain. Yes, it's risky. But when I'm around this person, it's about doing something. It's about being able to try things out. This is the London Marathon last year. And from this, I'm talking about enabling quick wins. This guy's just pumped himself 26 miles. It's inspiring. But in his career, when you chart it back, every single one of those miles is an achievement. It's exactly the same when you're an entrepreneur. Yes, it's a marathon. But you deserve to celebrate every quick win. And in your planning, you need to put in those quick wins. There will be times when it's so hard as an entrepreneur that you need a win every day. And it's not always possible to get a win every day. So you need to build into your life the ability to have quick wins so you can build on those. And that's what this picture is about. Building on your gains. Never let that opportunity go by when you know that you've won something, to concrete it in and build on it, because there'll be lots of things that don't work. You need to be able to move on from those. And then the last thing is anchoring it into a new culture. So when you've had this success, just make it part of you. And if you've changed other people, don't let them change back. You know, build your house on these strong foundations. Now, people are going to fight you. And as a social entrepreneur, they're going to fight what you stand for because you're so bloody positive. They're going to fight they don't understand the type of business that you're running. Who are you? Are you a charity? Are you a not-for-profit? Are you a real business? Why are you asking for change? That's the government's job. And the people around you are going to resist you. I don't want to change. I don't want to believe this is possible. And they're going to resist you on 3 levels. They're going to say to you, I don't get it. And that's the signal to you that they don't get it up here intellectually. So you'll have to communicate to them at an intellectual level, help them get it. Personally, I don't like it. When they say, I don't like what's happening to me, this is a personal emotion. You're going to have to deal with the personal relationships you have with that person, bypass them, or actually really focus on why they don't like it personally. And this really important one, which is a big feature in this community, I've had a lot of this resistance, being British. I don't trust it, or I don't trust you. And this is deep in people's core. Not an easy one to get over. It's really good feedback, though, when you know that somebody doesn't trust you or doesn't trust it. You need to step back from that and actually think about how you're going to convince people that they should trust you. So moving through this curve all the time, and be aware as soon as you get to the top of that curve, you're going to come down again and up and down again and up, because you're constantly changing. You drive it with communication, good communication and energy. You support and learn through it. So if you're asking other people to change, you support them and you enable them to learn their way through it. And if you're managing the change of yourself, make sure you've got support and find the learning in every opportunity. And when you know that you're in that experimentation phase and things are working and you're getting close, recognize that. Recognize others. Reward them. Recognize your own success and reward yourself. How does what I've said relate to the exercise?
I think it's about the change of stages that we have to pass through in order to achieve something, or how we're going to feel.
Great. That was an intention. Any other questions about change?
Another question about those 3 stages you showed. I don't like it, I don't get it, I don't like it, and I don't trust you. Mm-hmm. You see it. I see it from human rights organizations, which organization I'm working, LGBT youth. You see that people at the beginning don't get what you're trying to change, and then they stay back and say, we don't like this, it's not what we want. And then even if they understand what is going on, they understand that that might be okay, they say, I don't trust you as an organization. So you see those 3 stages.
So is that your biggest challenge as an organization? Getting people to trust you?
I think you need all 3 of those stages so you can move on and have change. But I think that one is one of the most hardest ones.
Okay, cool. I'm hoping that some of this strategy will actually help you, because their resistance is perfectly natural, but there are ways of overcoming resistance. But if it's very deep inside them, that's going to take a lot longer than a 30-minute exercise.
How do you keep motivating yourself? to fight against all the current?
It goes back to that middle period. If you see yourself as like a ball bearing, you'll always be up and down this curve. And it's about just becoming almost obsessed with learning about yourself, more and more and more self-aware, the impact you have on other people, the things you enjoy, the things you don't enjoy, exposing yourselves to completely different experiences so that you learn something else about yourself that you say, I didn't realize I had that skill, I can use that, or I didn't realize I had that weakness, I can actually be conscious of that and avoid that happening. And the other thing that we will move on to, I think in the third bit after the next session, is it is about the support you can build around yourself. It has been the most amazing support that I've had in the last 10 years has come from people that I've met through doing what I'm doing. You know, an international group of people, very diverse, that you just have to be interested in and learn about. And then they give you the most amazing support. The worst thing as an entrepreneur is to just believe that you are the answer to every question. It becomes very lonely. So access support, find learning, and find ways to energize yourself, find ways of taking care of yourself. Now, I'm mentoring 6 young people from across the Mediterranean region at the moment, and one of the things I've noticed among all of them is they're doing what every young person does. They're treating themselves like a battery. You know, they can stay out till 2 in the morning, they can go to an all-day seminar, they can get on a plane and fly across the world, they can stay out till 4 o'clock at night meeting new people, come back and then have to, you know, submit a thesis, you know, develop their business plan for their business idea. It's kind of inhuman. You know, you need to start actually building in time for yourself to recharge and reflect so that you can actually maintain your performance. You have to be an athlete. I'm not an athlete, clearly, but
Change is a lifestyle, basically.
If you choose to become an entrepreneur, as I started, change is your business. That's why I'm encouraging you to become interested in the topic of change, because it's just going to dominate your whole existence, and you can become athletes at it.
How important is rest?
Hugely.
Mm-hmm.
Hugely. Really good rest. Another reason why I like Cyprus.
What does that mean, really good rest?
You know, routine rest. Planning rest into your time, you know. Not necessarily being on call to people all the time. You know, communicate with people when your good time, when your peak time is, and when your downtime is. Manage other people's way of interacting with you. And also, one of the things I find, this has been really important to me, why so many sort of big leaders, they go to gyms and things like that, was originally not interesting to me. But running a business, building a network, doing all this thinking, doing all this planning is mentally exhausting. But if your body isn't tired, it's very difficult to sleep, I find. So actually making sure that you are physically active helps you sleep because your body is tired. So this is one of the reasons why people do get involved in sports or walking or whatever it is that is for you, is to occasionally exhaust your body so that you can actually sleep. Because when your brain is really tired, but your body still says, you know, it's only 11 o'clock in the morning, it's hard to sleep. So you will learn a lot about your kind of chemical balances and all that kind of thing.